The password was wrong. Again. His fingers trembled as he typed her name one last time. Access denied. That's when he saw it. A message blinking on his screen. Just 3 words that changed everything.
The password was her name. Darkness pooled in the corners of their bedroom like spilled ink, stretching toward the center where Jade lay alone in a California king. The sheets beside her bore the shallow impression of a body that should have been there, a cold geography of absence. She traced the hollow with her fingertips, feeling the chill rise from the abandoned terrain. 3 a.m. had a texture to it, grainy, restless. The digital clock cast red numerals across the wall like a countdown to something inevitable. Jade didn't move when she heard the front door open downstairs, didn't flinch at the careful removal of shoes, the calculated lightness of footsteps on stairs that knew how to avoid the creaking 4th step. She remained still as death when Ethan slipped back into bed, bringing with him the scent of winter air and secrets. He never touched her anymore without purpose. Their intimacy had become transactional, a series of negotiations rather than surrenders. In the dark, Jade opened her eyes to stare at the ceiling, feeling the weight of unspoken words pressing against her chest. Every lie has a fingerprint, she whispered to herself after his breathing had steadied into sleep, and I kept them all. The drawer was stuck, not obviously jammed, just resistant enough that most would abandon the effort. But Jade wasn't most people. She'd built a career dismantling resistance, finding the pressure point in every negotiation. The drawer yielded with a sigh. The phone wasn't even well hidden. A black rectangle nestled beneath folded handkerchiefs Ethan never used. No password protection. Amateur. As if he believed discovery was impossible, or perhaps beneath her dignity to pursue. She didn't scroll through messages or check call logs. Instead, she returned the phone exactly as she'd found it, closed the drawer with the same slight resistance, and walked to their bathroom. In the mirror, Jade watched herself apply lipstick with surgical precision. Her eyes were different now, sharper, colder. She'd spent 15 years building this life with Ethan, crafting the perfect narrative of success and partnership. She'd learned to see patterns in chaos, to anticipate market shifts before they happened. This was just another shift to navigate. That night, when Ethan kissed her cheek before leaving for drinks with clients, she smiled with genuine warmth. The hunt required camouflage, and her smile had always been her most effective weapon. "He's careful," said Morris, sliding a manila envelope across the cafe table. The private investigator looked perpetually exhausted, like someone who had seen too many marriages dissolve under his watch. But not careful enough. Jade didn't open the envelope there. She paid him in cash, adding a generous tip that raised his eyebrows. "Continue for another week," she said. "I need more." At home, she spread the photographs across her desk. Ethan entering office buildings that weren't on his calendar. Ethan in restaurants with men in expensive suits, leaning in too close for business. Ethan checking into the Archer Hotel at 2:17 p.m. on a Wednesday when he was supposedly in Philadelphia. She tracked his movements through the GPS she'd quietly installed on his car. She noted the pattern of his lies, the slight tremor in his left hand when fabricating dinner meetings, the way he touched his watch when mentioning colleagues who didn't exist. On the 15th night of her investigation, she followed him herself. Parked across from the Archer, she watched through binoculars as Ethan entered room 712. 20 minutes later, another man arrived. Tall, distinguished, with silver threading his temples. Not a colleague, not a stranger. Senator James Calder, a family friend, godfather to their son. The revelation didn't shatter her. It rearranged her understanding like pieces on a chessboard, creating new strategies, new possibilities. Jade sat in her car until they both left, 3 hours later. She watched how they didn't touch, didn't acknowledge each other in the lobby. Professional distance masking unprofessional intimacy. She drove home slowly, memories filtering through her consciousness like old photographs developing in solution. Ethan's stiffness at family gatherings when James attended, the peculiar intensity when they discussed politics, the Christmas party 7 years ago when she'd found them arguing in Ethan's study, stopping abruptly when she entered. The betrayal wasn't that Ethan desired men, it was that he denied himself authenticity and denied her the truth. He'd built their marriage on a foundation of performance rather than vulnerability. This wasn't love, it was theater. That night, when Ethan returned, she watched him wash away another man's touch before coming to their bed. She felt a strange empathy beneath her anger. What prison had he built for himself, living divided between worlds? But empathy wasn't forgiveness, and understanding wasn't absolution. Morris's voice crackled through her earpiece. "You were right about the blackmail." Jade sat perfectly still in her office, staring out at the Manhattan skyline as Morris played the recording. The conversation between Ethan and Senator Calder unfolded with the precision of a script they'd rehearsed for years. 10 years, James. 10 years I've kept your secret. Your career, your family, everything you have exists because I allow it. Calder's voice trembled. You were there too. You helped me move the body. But only one of us left DNA evidence. Only one of us is running for president. The recording continued, revealing the architecture of their relationship, built not on desire, but on mutual destruction. A young woman's death after a fundraiser gone wrong. A cover-up. A grave in the Catskills that held more than a body. It contained the leverage Ethan had wielded for a decade. Jade ended the call, removed her earpiece, and placed it carefully in her desk drawer. The pieces aligned now, forming a picture more complex and twisted than she'd imagined. This wasn't about infidelity. It was about power, control, and a darkness in Ethan she'd always sensed but never named. The storage unit was climate-controlled, its contents meticulously organized. Jade entered the code and pulled up the rolling door to reveal her archive. 6 years of documentation, voice recordings on USB drives, surveillance footage on external hard drives, notebooks filled with observations, times, dates, inconsistencies. This hadn't begun with a stuck drawer. It had begun with intuition, with the subtle shift in Ethan's demeanor after Calder announced his Senate campaign. It had begun with questions about their finances, about the consulting fees that appeared in offshore accounts. Jade had been patient, methodical. She'd installed cameras in their home while renovating, placed recording devices in his office while redecorating. She'd built a case not just against her husband, but against her own willing blindness. On her laptop, she opened the final document, a screenplay titled The Senator's Keeper. Fictional names cloaked real crimes. Dialogue recreated from actual recordings. A narrative that would destroy 2 men and liberate 1 woman. She'd already met with producers, signed the contracts. The wheels were in motion. Drink? Jade offered, pouring Macallan into crystal tumblers without waiting for his answer. Ethan looked exhausted, his confidence eroded by 6 months of subtle psychological warfare. Schedule changes, moved items, deleted messages he was certain he'd saved. "We need to talk," he said, accepting the whiskey. "Yes," Jade agreed, sliding a folder across their kitchen island. "We do." He opened it, confusion giving way to shock as he recognized the Netflix contract. His eyes darted from the document to her face, searching for the familiar Jade, the supportive wife, the steady partner. Instead, he found a stranger wearing his wife's perfect smile. "What is this?" His voice was hollow. "Your life story, our life story. Slightly fictionalized, of course." She sipped her whiskey. The producers loved the concept. A man blackmailing a senator over a decades-old murder. The perfect wife building her case in silence. They're calling it prestige television. You can't? I already have. She leaned forward. I've known about James for years, about the girl in the Catskills, about all of it. His face contorted with rage, then fear, then something like respect. Why now? Jade stood, smooth as water. Because you were always just a story to me, and now I've given you the perfect ending. 3 months later, Ethan sat in a rental apartment, watching as advertisements for the Senator's Keeper appeared on his social media feed. Critics were calling it a masterpiece of psychological suspense. His lawyer had advised against legal action. The screenplay was technically fiction, and litigation would only confirm its truth. His laptop pinged with an email notification. The preliminary hearing date for Senator Calder, arrested after an anonymous tip, led police to human remains in the Catskills. Ethan's immunity deal required full testimony. He opened his private server, where he kept the only remaining evidence of his involvement. The password prompt appeared on screen. He typed, Jade Ellis 2024, access denied. He tried Jade Ellis 2023, access denied. He attempted Jade Morningstar, access denied. A chill traveled down his spine as realization dawned. She'd changed his password. She'd been inside his most private files. A text message appeared on his phone. The password was my name, but the story was always mine. Outside his window, a billboard illuminated with Jade's face, no longer his wife, but the executive producer of the year's most anticipated series. Her smile contained multitudes, triumph, vindication, and the quiet satisfaction of a woman who had weaponized her own erasure. In the dark of his empty apartment, Ethan finally understood. He hadn't been the author of their story. He had been its antagonist all along.
If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.